let's get into the No campaign right now. Do well in the polls, very strongly in front of the Yes camp, of course, but complacency is dangerous. Joining me now, though, is one of the campaign spokeswomen, leaders herself, Senator Jacinta Nampijinpa Price, coming to us, of course, from Canberra. Let's just start with a broad brush question, if I can, Jacinta. I appreciate you're not down in the House, you're in the Senate during question time. But today the Prime Minister really launched after a colleague of yours, Colin Boyce, really went after him for his question to the Prime Minister about this 26-page Uluru Statement from the Heart. Megan Davies, you know her well. She was at Uluru. She helped draft the statement. She says it's 20 pages plus. The Prime Minister says, no, it's just a page. And anyone who says otherwise is a conspiracy theorist. What do you say to the Prime Minister?
Look, I think that's pretty poor form on the part of the Prime Minister. My colleagues have been doing a wonderful job across the board, Colin Boyce certainly, in trying to get to the bottom of the Uluru Statement from the Heart, the messages that keep changing. So my office today sought clarification from the FOI team at NIAA to determine whether the Uluru Statement from the Heart is simply one page or the full 26 pages. And so my staff got a phone call at 12:54 this afternoon with a verbal clarification that the document is in fact the 26 pages and not just, of course, the one page. You know, the Prime Minister needs to come clean to the Australian people, not just on this issue, but, you know, on various other issues around treaty, around details of the voice. He's dancing around everything and taking the Australian people for a ride.
So you know how this works though, right? The reason why he wants the simple one-pager, because it's nice and sanitised. Most people could read it, they're not scared by it. It is, as he says, eloquent language. But then there's this other document, and I've got another copy of it here that sits behind it. It's all the Uluru Statement, not just the front page. And that's the document that's got all the hooks in it, right? That gives you your Makarrata, your treaties with the Australian government. It's reparations based on GDP. Now, he can't disown that document because he needs to pretend it's just the one-pager, get it through past the people, slip it in, and then say, oh, I'm sorry, Australia, this is the full document. This is what we'll implement in full, as he says, time and time and time again. He's just been caught out that this has now been discovered before people vote. And this is why it matters, because it says, isn't it, Jacinta, it's got treaties in there. He doesn't want to talk about treaties, and it's got truth-telling. When you're out on the ground, what is the reaction from Australians about the issue of treaties?
A lot of Australians can't understand why we would go down this path of treaty with our own citizens. The concept of reparations is just, people are dumbfounded at the idea that non-Indigenous Australians should be paying some kind of compensation or reparations to those of us who are of Indigenous heritage for things that occurred in our history, you know, 150, 200 years ago. Those of us alive today are not responsible for what occurred in the past, and those, you know, there's no one around today who's 150 to 200 years old either. So people are sort of beside themselves, and they're also of the view that it's actually a huge distraction. It's not supporting our most marginalised Indigenous Australians, which is what they claim the voice is about. It's a whole other agenda, and it's turning people off support for constitutional recognition, and of course, you know, in the form of this voice.
I want to pick up some comments from Aboriginal leaders last night on Q&A, ABC program, of course. They were up at Garma. They were there running Q&A from Garma. This is Senator Malandiri McCarthy, Labor Senator, Assistant Minister for Indigenous Australians. Have a listen.
Well, the Prime Minister said on the night, Dan, when we won the election, that we would follow through with the Uluru Statement from the Heart in full, voice, treaty, truth.
That's the whole box and dice, isn't it, Jacinta?
That's it. That's it right there. I mean, one thing I'll take my hat off to Mullindiri to say is she told the truth right there on television for everybody to see. You know, when we put the same question to in the Senate today that Senator Michaelia Cash put to Penny Wong, was to ask exactly those sorts of questions. You know, is it about the entire document, the 24 pages in support of treaty, reparations, all of those sorts of things? And Senator Wong could not provide any comment whatsoever other than to turn around and to attack former Prime Minister Scott Morrison and others and basically name call, saying that we as the coalition aren't supportive of Indigenous Australians when we are. So the Prime Minister needs to come clean to Australians. You know, it appears, it appears as though he's misled Parliament on this matter. And if that's the case, you know, he needs to correct that for the benefit of all Australians.
Can I ask you about a motion? I understand you're putting up something tomorrow in the Senate calling for an inquiry into Aboriginal land councils. Tell us why you're doing this and why you think it's so important that we have an inquiry here.
Well, this is really important. It's not just land councils, but it's statutory authorities like ORIC, like Office of Township Leasing, and organisations that receive federal funding to close the gap, if you like. I think it's important. I've always suggested that this is something we haven't done, is to determine whether these organisations are operating effectively, producing the outcomes they're supposed to be producing, actually representing the views and the needs of traditional owners, because I get a lot of traditional owners who come to me with their concerns that they're being ignored, sidelined, not respected, and written out of traditional owner status for various different reasons. There is a huge issue going on, and this is what we need to do to support our most marginalised, is sort out this huge mess that currently exists. So that is what my motion is about. Myself and Senator Karen Little, we've drafted the terms of reference, and it's really this is the work that the government should be doing.
Senator Price, I wish you well to get that up tomorrow. Thank you very much for your time.